It's right at 2 o'clock, so I know we still have a couple of people that are signing in, but if we could all get to our seats, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Paul Young. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development for the City of Memphis, and we are here today to talk about these exciting development opportunities that we have in our city. If you all have heard Mayor Strickland speak, you've heard him say the phrase that Memphis has momentum. And we believe that this presentation and these projects are exemplary of that fact. There are some great things that are happening in the city of Memphis that we are very proud of. We have these, at least 6 of these properties were in the city's inventory. The other 2 properties are done in collaboration with partners, Alsac, St. Jude, and United Housing. And so we wanted to package these things up because we believe that some of the higher profile projects and opportunities will be able to drive attention for some of the ones that might not get that attention otherwise. We're also on the heels of Memphis 3.0, which is the first comprehensive plan for the city of Memphis in the past 30+ years. And so building upon Memphis 3.0, we wanted to provide these development opportunities as ways to really kickstart development in what we call anchors. Memphis 3.0 is built upon identifying the heartbeat of each community and neighborhood and trying to find ways to invest in that core so that it could drive development in the broader areas around it. So here's a list of the 8 sites that we will talk about. During today's presentation, we will talk about these projects very briefly. They are all listed on the website, so if you haven't checked out the website, which I assume you all have since you're here, but if you hadn't, you can go to memphistn.gov/PDO. That's where you can find all 8 full RFQs/RFPs, and you can get the more detailed explanation. But for today's presentation, we're going to give really brief highlight overview of each project and each RFQ and what types of things we're looking to see in each one. And then at the end, we'll do Q&A. We're probably going to do that for the next 45 minutes to an hour. At the end of that hour, we will break into the tables, and so you see those placards where you can see different project names. If you have additional questions on either project, you can feel free to go to one of those. It's a big crowd here, so I'm not going to do the everybody introduce yourselves, but please shake hands, meet somebody here. Part of the goal with this initiative is to develop more partnerships, trying to get more minority and small businesses, locally owned small businesses engaged in development throughout the city. So take this as an opportunity to do that. I will also say before we dive in that this is being streamed live on our YouTube, our newly formed YouTube page. It will also be available after this meeting, so if you have a colleague or a partner that you want to be able to view it, they will also be able to access that on the PDO website. All right, so let's dive right in, and I'm going to talk to you about South City. So Some of you probably have heard of South City. It's the area where Foot Homes was formerly located. Now it's been torn down and it's being redeveloped over near downtown. So the area of Vance and Lauderdale, Danny Thomas, over to 4th Street is where the bounds of the South City project, the housing development aspect of South City. Now South City is an interesting project because it's funded by a federal grant, Choice Neighborhoods grant, where we got that grant to redevelop the housing in the area. One of the things that that grant stipulates is that the city and the organizations partnering on it can't just focus on developing the housing. We have a mandate to identify ways to help improve the area around the housing. And so in an effort to do that, the city acquired this block, which I'll go to on the next slide. But we acquired this block to be able to remediate some blight. There are some vacant structures. There are about 4 structures on the site. It's about 2.1 acres altogether. It's directly adjacent to Claiborne Temple and Iron Man Plaza. There will be about 700 mixed income units that are immediately adjacent to the site. And it's in very close proximity to recently announced projects like Union Road, Wiseacre Brewery, as well as the new FedEx Logistics headquarters, which will be coming soon. So this image gives you a little bit closer view of the site. As I mentioned, it's about 2.1 acres, it's 15 parcels. What we're looking for is some type of mixed use development. It doesn't have to be mixed use, but we use that term to say it could be a wide range of uses on this site. It's in the downtown area. Our goal is to ensure that whatever is proposed is able to serve the development that's adjacent to it and complement the developments that are also adjacent to it. And what I mean by that, you have uses like Iron Man Plaza, which is on the same block, those I guess it's 3 parcels where you see the circle on the left side where it's kind of cut out. That's where Iron Man Plaza is. And just to the north of that is Claiborne Temple. So we're looking for something that can not impede on those land uses, but could also serve, and just where you see the arrow, where the north arrow is, that is actually where South City, the housing development, is located. So we're looking for something that can complement those 2 uses. And it could be retail, commercial, or residential. The transaction could be structured as a property sale, or it could be a long-term land lease. And I will also say, in terms of incentives, the traditional development centers are available, so things like pilots, DMC's different programs, Downtown Memphis Commission, they have a host of programs that they provide. Given the proximity and the location of this site, there will be a lot of different incentives that are available. What we would like to see from the developer that responds is demonstration of a need for those incentives and how it would be applied. So I'm moving relatively quickly through these because I think the Q&A is going to be the most rich part of this presentation. So we're going to jump to historic Melrose High School. So this is in the Orange Mound community. This is a building that's been vacant for quite some time. I think it was last in use in 1979. And since that time, this building has been sitting dormant in the community. It's been both a source of pride and a source of concern for the neighborhood. The concern is drawn from the fact that it's been vacant for 40 years. And so in October of last year, the city partnered with the community in hosting a demonstration, an open house of sorts. We cleared out about 5,000 square feet in the space. We did some lead abatement and environmental abatement in general, because it was lead and asbestos. We abated all of those things in that space and had the community come in and did art shows and spoken word. And it was a nice community event. And the goal was to identify what could some potential uses for this structure be. There have been ideas that have been floated ranging from a museum that documents the history of the community and a genealogy center. Talked about an environmental training school, a junior high school. There's a host of other uses that were recommended from the community that are outlined in the RFQ. What we would like to see is a developer that can work to help pull all of those things together and partner with the city on delivering this opportunity for the neighborhood. It's about 40,000 square feet. This is one of the civic anchors as listed in the Memphis 3.0 plan. And it's also included in the Fairgrounds Tourism Development Zone boundaries. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you can get the money from the TDZ automatically. So I want to be very clear about that. There are a lot of different stipulations on the TDZ, but it is something to know that is in that boundary. And we can come back to that. I don't want to get too deep into that. Mary Claire will probably do that when she talks about the fairgrounds. So I kind of addressed all of the things that we've heard in terms of the vision. We would like to see adaptive reuse. We've sort of built this reputation in this community of being a community that can save older buildings and find creative ways to use them. We want to see that happen in Orange Mound. And this just gives you a little bit of a sense of the location. One of the things I wanted to point out, when you look at the RFQ, it shows the whole parcel, and the parcel includes some other land uses. I want to be clear that it's only the building that's circled in red. There's a senior building where a new pool has been installed, and that's just to the south. That building that's just to the south of the structure, and also adjacent to that is a community center for the community. So this is already sort of the heartbeat of the neighborhood. So if we can find some uses for this structure, then it'll be a great addition to Orange Mound. Next, I want to talk about Tillman Cove. So Tillman Cove is in the Binghamton community. It's the site that's outlined in orange here. It's about 8.18 acres. It currently includes about 116 units of one-story brick buildings. It's in the geographic center of the city. If you've ever driven down Tillman, you have certainly seen it. There's a gate in front of it, and it's been closed for about 2 years. So the city acquired that property last year in partnership with the Binghamton Development Corporation, and we view that as a prime development opportunity for the city. You might have heard that in the Binghamton community, they had a TIF approved, a tax increment financing district approved. As a part of that process, they created a neighborhood redevelopment plan. When they went through that planning process, one of the #1 needs for the community, or desires for the community, was to have something happen at Tillman Cove, because they view that as being the entryway to the community, and it's such a visible form of blight in the neighborhood today, and it's a great opportunity. These are some of the things that the community said they would like to see happen in that area, reconnecting the neighborhood with the areas around it. They want to see more diversity, a mix of uses, a mix of incomes in the community, making the streets more walkable. Obviously, this is on Tillman, where the HAMP line is going to be installed later this year, and they would like to see jobs created. So getting into the RFQ, this could be a land purchase or a ground lease, similar to the other ones. Desired some type of new construction. We want to build up density. This is one of the core tenets of Memphis 3.0, is to try and densify our core. We think this is a great opportunity to do that. We could see a mix of rental and home ownership. We would like to see affordable housing included. In fact, not only would we like to see it, we have to see it, because the money that we used to acquire this property was federal. And so tied to that are some affordability requirements. And so we can get into that when we get into the Q&A. And we want to make sure that Binghamton Development Corporation participates in the project. And that's something that can be discussed, but they are the ones that submitted the documentation for the use of the federal funds, and they've already been a strong development partner in that community, and so we want to make sure that they are engaged in any project that moves forward. All right, so now we're going to jump to the fairgrounds. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mary Claire Boris, and then I'll come back later for Q&A.
Thank you, Paul. I believe everyone has heard that the City of Memphis achieved the designation of a tourism development zone around the fairgrounds, with our intention to build a 22-acre sports and events complex. We're focusing on the lucrative and ever-increasing market for youth and amateur sports. Our plan is to construct a 180,000 square foot building with an indoor track, playing courts for basketball, volleyball, pickleball, which is apparently the fastest growing sport in America, who knew? We're also going to have an exterior track and playing field, walking trails, and play areas. One of the things to know about our fairgrounds redevelopment plan is that it is taking a holistic holistic approach to the entire fairgrounds campus. So we will be doing some additional upgrades to the Liberty Bowl Memorial Football Stadium. We'll be doing adaptive reuse of both the Pipkin and Creative Arts buildings, the two historic buildings on the site. We're definitely going to be doing a lot of site infrastructure improvements with a particular focus on pedestrian focus, walkability, and also multimodal transportation. Our hope is to build a garage next to the youth sports facility that includes a NATA regional bus transit hub. So altogether, this phase of the plan, which is technically the second phase of the fairgrounds redevelopment, represents $130 million of direct investment by the city. For those keeping score, phase one happened several years ago when the city developed Tiger Lane and tore down some older facilities. And our hope is that within 5 years of completing phase two, there will be a phase three. So this is really just the beginning of what we plan to do at the fairgrounds. Our master vision for the site is focused on having this be a very dense, urban style design, focused on walkability and bike friendliness, as I mentioned, public art and iconic entrances. The goal is to have a unique place that is attractive to both tourists and those coming into town for the trade shows and sports competitions, but that it is also attractive to Memphians. And as you know, right now, most of the year, the fairgrounds pretty much feels like a graveyard. Our goal is to see life and activity 365 days a year. For our RFQ, we have identified 18 acres that, with most of that fronting on Central Avenue. For those who know the area, that's basically on Central Avenue across from Christian Brothers University, between the schools building and the Children's Museum. The city would like to see a mixed use, we love that word, development with focus on restaurants, retail, and particularly hospitality to support all of the other structures on the site. So that this is where everybody will go for their Memphis Express drink, or spend the night when they're in town for a fencing competition at the sports complex. Again, as I said, the city is definitely going to be focused on improving the entire site from a holistic perspective. We will be redoing several of the entrances to the site, with making sure that we have signal modernization. And this, unlike several of the other opportunities, this will most definitely be a long-term ground lease. There is no option for any of this land to be sold. So this is the one PDO where that is the case. For our redevelopment schedule, you will notice, I'm not going to go through the whole schedule, but what I want you to take away from this is it's fast. It's very, very fast. So this is probably our most accelerated timeline, unlike anything that you'll see with the other development opportunities. Our focus is to have the sports and events complex open in the spring of 2021, and to have the hospitality, retail, and restaurant components open as soon, in as close proximity to that as possible. The next opportunity we're going to discuss is the Crosstown Mound, sometimes also referred to as the Crosstown Dirt Mound. If you've ever driven up and down Bellevue behind the Crosstown Concourse area and you wondered why is there 20 feet of dirt piled high up on top of a parcel, that's what we're talking about. The city did acquire this land from the state of Tennessee. It does currently have certain restrictions on it, but we are working to get those taken off. We would definitely like to see this land developed. Right now, it is not technically parceled or zoned. We'll be working through that process as well. But it is bound by Overton Park Avenue on the north, Claybrook Street on the east, Peach Avenue on the south, and Bellevue Boulevard on the west. And it is about 8 acres, and like I said, it's just 1 block south of Crosstown Concourse, so there's excellent opportunity here for connectivity to Crosstown. As you know, there's already been several area investments made in the area. This is a neighborhood of focus, an anchor under the Memphis 3.0 plan, and so the city has several additional investments planned for the area, particularly focused on roadway improvements, bike and pedestrian improvements, improving access along Overton Park Avenue to the actual Overton Park, and creating a MATA super stop for the Crosstown Concourse, and that's something you'll be hearing more about from MATA as they start unveiling more of the transit plan. For the RFQ, this could be, again, a land sale or land lease. This could be a master developer or specific projects. But the focus is to have a design and a project that enhances our vision of a walkable neighborhood. There can be a mix of single unit and multi-unit housing, anything really 1 to 3 stories. And there's also the opportunity for commercial or other business purposes on the first floor and residential above. Unlike Tillman Co., there are no specific affordability requirements at this site. Doesn't mean we wouldn't want to see affordable housing, just means there's no specific numbers that we have to hit. Next, we have the Raleigh Springs Town Center. This is a $42 million investment by the city to demolish a blighted mall and redevelop the entire site. If you've driven past there, you'll see that construction is well underway. The new police precinct and traffic station is framed and drywall's going up indoors. The Raleigh Branch Library that will rise, that's the middle picture there. The steel framing is on its way up for that. The championship level skate park has technically already been completed, but please don't tell any skateboarders because they will totally hop the fence and try to get in there and skate on it. And we're not ready for that. We also have an 11-acre lake surrounded by a 1-mile walking trail. So what's unique about this site is if you drive up and down Austin P, you notice that it's typical suburban retail style development with a sea of parking lot and then a big box way in back of that, way far away from the road. This presents a totally different opportunity from anything else that you would find along Austin P. With the lake in between the busy road and the rest of the site and all the parking located in the back, it's actually going to be an almost pastoral setting. And so we believe that presents some unique opportunities for developing the rest of the site. Construction by the city will be completed by the end of this year, but we're only building on about half to 2/3 of the site. So we have an additional 20 acres in the northeastern corner of the site that will be available for development. This is along Yale Road. Again, you've got the lake in between this site that's shaded in blue and Austin P Highway. So that would provide noise buffering for those who would be interested in doing some kind of residential development. It is zoned CMU2, so that allows pretty much everything that you would want to do that we would be willing to let you put next to a library and police precinct. But we're particularly focused on having, again, mixed use, but also we believe this presents a unique opportunity for a live, work, play environment. We get a lot of comments, the city get a lot of comments from neighborhoods outside of Midtown and downtown that say, why can't I have live, work, play? And the reality is many of the neighborhoods weren't developed with that type of concept in mind, but this is one opportunity where we get to redo a whole site and possibly have that. I want to mention that there is another parcel that is owned by the City of Memphis, about 8.65 acres. That's the smaller blue box there in the picture. That is also available for sale. It's actually already up and it's listed with Colliers International. So there would be the possibility for somebody to acquire both parcels and aggregate their developments. The Memphis 3.0 plant team looked at the site and just kind of, don't anybody get attached to this. This is not necessarily, of course, what's going to happen, but it was kind of an interesting exercise to sketch out coming up with condos and houses and multifamily and live work and all that sort of stuff on the parcels that the city owns, and the underutilized and mostly vacant parcel that's on that little triangular corner in between. And with that, I'm going to bring up Priyanka. So Priyanka Chatterjee with United Housing will talk to you about the development on Powers Road, and following Priyanka will be Alex Feldman to talk about the Pinch District.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I am here to talk about Powers Road in Raleigh. It's 9 acres of land in the Spring Park neighborhood of Raleigh. A majority of the homes built in this neighborhood were built in the 1970s or after, and the home ownership rates are really high for this neighborhood. They have a really strong homeowners association and partner with Raleigh CDC. And we've actually had neighborhood meetings with the residents, and they've expressed that they want homes built in this area that are the same characteristics as the homes that they live in currently. The land is right next to the Raleigh Community Center and the Raleigh Town Center and Peerody Park. And the land has substantial infrastructure needs because, as you can see, it's completely just forest. So the vision for this development, so at United Housing, we are a nonprofit agency in town that focuses on promoting sustainable home ownership. So we want to have more accessible options for seniors in the city. So our vision for this is to make it a senior development. Approximately $10 million, 55-unit senior housing development, townhome-style duplexes and quadplexes that contain efficiencies, 1 or 2 bedrooms and baths, energy efficiency, ADA compliance, walking trails that complement the Raleigh Community Center, and then also programming that is in line with what the seniors would want for their lifestyle. So as part of the RFQ, which I do have copies of it, so you have more information in there, but we are seeking land purchase or limited partnership for development of the site, preferably townhome or cottage style units. Incorporate a buffer zone for neighborhood to keep all of their trees because they have expressed that they love all the greenery surrounding their neighborhood. And then I also just want to reiterate that the location of this land is right next to some major development projects that are happening that the city is invested in, such as the Raleigh Town Center and then the community center that was talked about just now. So that's it. Very quick.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Alex Feldman, and on behalf of St. Jude ALSAC, Memphis Medical District Collaborative, and U3 Advisors, we're excited about the opportunity that we're about to present in the Pinch District. Stepping back from the actual site itself, this map shows what we call the Memphis Medical District. It's the boundaries of the organization that works with the 8 anchor institutions, including St. Jude and ALSAC. And represents the over 20,000 employees and 8,000 students that go to school or work in this district every day. It's a very significant economic engine for the city of Memphis. The site that we're talking about is adjacent. It's controlled and owned by St. Jude ALSAC, and it's across the street from the institution. It's in the light pink next to the number 2. You can see it at the top of the screen. And as you can see, this site is adjacent to a number of major investments that are happening in Memphis, including the new Lowe's Hotel, the Convention Center, the expansion of FedEx downtown, and the new Bass Pro Shop that opened up in the Pyramid. The site itself is 2 acres. It's actually 2 different parcels. The map on the bottom shows the 2 different parcels. They're bounded by 2nd and Overton. Essentially, they're about 1 acre each. And they are adjacent to the campus of St. Jude, which is about to experience a $3 billion campus expansion. There are 5,500 employees that are currently based in Memphis for St. Jude, and there's a plan for over 1,000 new employees to be projected in the next several years. We believe approximately 2,500 indirect jobs are projected to be created through the expansion of St. Jude. The project itself that we would like to see, we're imagining as a dense, high-quality, mixed-use development. I think we've heard a lot of mixed use today, but it's still a theme that I think is very important. The site itself is in the heart of the Pinch District. It's a block off of Main Street. And Overton, which runs basically between parcels A and B and right up to St. Jude, is an important spine and imagined as an active corridor as well that really complements Main Street. We're imagining commercial uses on the ground floor with residential on the upper floors, potentially serving as housing for employees of Allsack St. Jude, as well as all the major downtown employers, as well as students and visitors alike. I think you may be aware of the number of incentives that are available for development in downtown Memphis and beyond. I'm not going to go through all of these today, but there are a number of incentives that are available through organizations like the Downtown Memphis Commission, as well as the Memphis Medical District Collaborative. I think some of the most significant ones are the pilot, which is may be available for this site depending on how it's developed. It also sits within an opportunity zone, a federally designated opportunity zone, so there may be opportunities for you to leverage that with your equity. And there's also maybe an opportunity for taking advantage of TIF financing as well as the TDZ. DMC and MMDC both offer other grants and incentives that you can view through their websites that also support development. In terms of the timeline, the RFP was actually issued last week on February 21st. We're in the middle of the Q&A period, which will end actually on March 8th. And we have a scheduled site visit tomorrow. It may be too late at this point to come to that, but please talk to us at our table if you have any questions. And the deadline for the RFP is April 8th, 2019. Excited about this opportunity, and thank you very much.
All right, now the fun part. We can get to the Q&A. One thing I want to mention for those that are streaming it online, you do have the ability to ask a question online. If you type your question, then we'll have someone here read it out so we can answer it aloud. The other point I wanted to make is that I neglected to mention, but all of these sites, with the exception of the 2 in Raleigh, so the other 6 are all located in opportunity zones for those that are in tune with those incentives. So, with that said, does anybody have any questions? Not everybody at once, just one at a time, please. Yes, sir.
What's the status of the St. Jude patient housing project? Has it been designed yet? Can we look at those designs?
The status of the St. Jude patient housing.
Block to the east.
Yes. Alex, does anybody from the team want to speak to that?
The project is being planned as we speak, and groundbreaking will happen at the end of this year.
All right, so the design, the question you're asking is, can you get the design? I don't think it's available yet. So I think that's the answer.
The other question is there a plan for the garden block, or is that just going to stay a garden?
Is there a plan for the garden block in the Pinch District? Not at this time. There is no plan for the garden block yet. Great questions. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Banks.
Hi, Paul. As part of the hub requirements, are you looking for Section 3 businesses to be a part of the development teams?
Yeah, so the question is, are we looking for Section 3 businesses to be a part of development teams as a part of the HUD requirements? We certainly welcome and desire any Section 3 businesses and minority business to participate. We have a mandate to have their participation on particularly the Tillman Cove project, because that's the one where HUD funding has been spent. The other properties don't have any other federal funding in them. Anybody else have any questions that you want to ask aloud? And I'll also say that every question that you ask is actually going to be documented, so we'll include that on the page, the memphistn.gov/PDO, so that anybody who's interested in these projects will be able to see all of the questions that have been asked so that, you know, it's fair to all bidders.
One more question. November 6th Street, the alley.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody done the replan of that? And is that about it?
November
Or is the proposal supposed to be the plan of the engineer?
Alex, you want to answer that?
There's actually $200 million worth of infrastructure investment that's been committed to the Pinch District, including, I believe, that alleyway. So there's a lot of investment on the way there, including sewers, electrical, streetscaping, light remediation, things like that. I don't know specific plans are being there, but.
Okay. Yeah, so the question, and I'm just reciting the question because the people online can't hear it. The question was, have any specific plans been made for November 6th alleyway? The answer is there have been plans that have been made for infrastructure in the area, some of which does include the alley. I don't think there's a formal restructure plan for the alleyway though.
No sidewalk, curb,
no.
landscape.
Not at this time. So right now it's a blank slate, so whatever you propose can be considered. Anybody else? All right, if there are no additional questions, what we're looking to do, we're gonna kind of reorganize the room since there's quite a few people so that we can have some circulation. But there are tables that are here to represent each project. And if you wanna have more detailed questions or about either one of those, please feel free to stop by. We thank you for coming out. Anybody have anything else they want to say for the full group? All right, well with that said, thank you. We will adjourn this portion of the meeting and we will have breakouts at all the separate tables. Thank you.